Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0, episode 132. This is Grady Hooker, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
So, coming up this weekend, I believe it is October 3rd, the Saturday for America, and October 4th, the Sunday, at around 12:30 p.m. for New Zealand. You've got WWE's live Madison Square Garden show on the WWE Network. They got 6 matches on the card, and to be honest, a lot of them are rematches from Night of Champions. Or rematches just full stop, like Randy Orton versus Sheamus. We've seen that a million times. New Day versus the Dudley Boys for the tag titles, that was a rematch. Ziggler versus Rusev's a rematch. And Cena versus Rollins for the US titles a rematch, but it isn't a steel cage, so they at least did something a little different. And then they've probably got the most hyped in terms of the internet match, Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho for the IC title.
Yeah, I've heard that on the live events that they've done the match, that it's been a really, really good match.
On paper, it seems like it can be a really great match. And then also the main event, Big Show versus Brock Lesnar. They've been trying to build Big Show up, or at least it seems that. They've had him beat, I think, Cesaro and Mark Henry.
Yeah. They try to make him appear as a big deal and a threat to the Beast.
He hasn't done it for me.
Well, you, unlike WWE, seems to you probably remembers the Royal Rumble in 2013 when Big Show just absolutely destroyed the Big Show.
Yeah. I'm also remembering like the past, probably 2 years now, where he's just been the Authority's puppet and done nothing. It seems as though it's a weird pairing in terms of, I see why they're trying to make Brock Lesnar look really dominant against the big guy, but there's no way in hell that Big Show's ever going to win.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the real meaning of the, Road to Hell tour. But yeah, Brock Lesnar's just going to pick up that win, demolish Big Show, and look strong heading into his Steve Austin podcast. Yeah. For those who didn't see Night of Champions, I don't know if they've promoted it on Raw. He's going to have the live at Madison Square Garden show, then he's going to move on to a live podcast with Stone Cold, and then Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, they've been promoting the Go to Hell tour.
Yeah.
On Raw.
I think most part of that I want to watch the most will probably be the Steve Austin podcast. I think after his one with Heyman, it'll be interesting to see him talk to Brock Lesnar. I don't know what Brock Lesnar is on like a personal level, but he doesn't seem like a big talker. So it'll be interesting to see how those two personalities mesh on live mics. And whether it goes awesome and everybody loves it, or whether it just doesn't work. So this past week on Raw, John Cena, the Open Challenge is back.
Yes.
Even if it didn't, finish, it's still back. And I think that was one big aspect that when John Cena picked up the US title again, everybody wanted to make sure we were going to get. They wanted to make sure that the US Open Challenge would be back.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I have to. The thing I want is that I don't want them announcing Cena's next opponent for the next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Until after the last match prior to the last open challenge prior to the pay-per-view. Because that will allow people to suspend their belief enough to believe that whoever is wrestling in the challenge could actually win the championship.
Yeah. I know back when we had the Cena-Rusev feud going on, when they announced like Cena-Rusev was happening at the pay-per-view 3 weeks out from the pay-per-view, it was pretty obvious that Cena was going to hold the title going into that.
And then the Kevin Owens feud.
Yeah. I thought Xavier Woods was a very interesting choice. It's a guy who's pretty much just been...
Alright choice. It's not the one I wanted, though.
Who'd you want?
I wanted Big E.
Yeah. I see why they went with Xavier, though. He has just been the mouthpiece or the trombone piece to the New Day for a little while. And it made sort of sense because the other two do already have a belt, unless they are doing their weird like New Day rule. But
yeah, they are doing the Freebird rule.
But has Xavier ever been in a match defending them? Because it seems as though they talk a lot about doing it, but I don't think Xavier's ever defended them.
And I think most of the time he just wears the belt. Because he was wearing the belts last night.
Yeah. But yeah, it all dissolved, and we've got a 6-man tag team match instead. The spirit of Teddy Long is still with us. But the New Day versus the Dudleys somehow is maintaining entertainment value, I think. But it might be at the end of that. I just have a feeling that people are going to start getting bored unless there's a new element or a new thing that comes into that feud to shake it up. It seems like it's the same. New Day is always going to be entertaining, and the Dudleys are always going to be a big draw. But they're going to have to do something different, especially if they're defending the titles at Night of Champions, the live Madison Square Garden show, and then also on Hell in a Cell. We've seen people not like the same match 3 pay-per-views in a row, because essentially the Madison Square Garden show is one. So we'll go into our classic entrance theme. It is Bam Bam Bigelow's Bam Bam. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0. So just during that song, Josh brought up the main event of Raw. So for those who don't know, it was Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns. The internet seems to be 50-50 on whether they were bored until the finish or whether they tore the house down. From what I can tell, I think everybody unanimously agrees the match content was great, I think. It was the crowd that weren't into it until the end. But I definitely... People are putting such high praise on it, I think, that the comments are along the lines of, this is why Vince should believe in the next generation. Which is very high praise going to a Roman Reigns match that people, 6 months ago, hated. But maybe it's all just comments for Bray, because everybody loves Bray. That's how it rolls. But while you've also got that new guard closing up the show at the end, you've also got, in terms of the main title picture, Kane is definitely inserted there.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get Kane versus Seth Rollins for the WWE Championship.
But will it be in a cell?
I think it will be. Although I think really it should, the second cell match should really go to Reigns and Bray.
Why not have 3?
I think 3 would be overkill.
Yeah. I don't think they've ever had more than 2.
As it is.
Mm.
But I do think that the second one should be Reigns and Bray Wyatt. But it's going to end up being Seth Rollins versus Kane, and then you're going to have another 6-man tag between the Wyatts and the Shield plus Randy Orton.
Yeah, Randy Orton's definitely inserted himself into that as the third man on their team, even if Dean doesn't trust him. But in terms of the feud making sense inside Hell in a Cell, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns definitely does. They've got teams on each side, so they need to keep people out. They need to put this big match that we've had a couple of times, elevate it and put it in a cell. But Kane's persona is very Hell in a Cell-ish, and I think that's what's going to make sense. Or give reasoning to why Seth versus Kane is in a cell.
Yeah, it's his own personal hell he's going through right now.
Yeah, I have no idea what's up with Kane. He's the good guy, but he's the bad guy. Initially, I thought it was going to be that he was never going to acknowledge the other person and pretend that the two were different characters. So he was going to pretend that there was a corporate Kane and there was a demon Kane. But now, it's definitely showing that he transforms after what happened in the ambulance. Where he was being carted away as corporate Kane, and then everything started smoking, catching on fire, and then he came out as Demon Kane. So I don't know if that is going to play into anything now that they've sort of changed up how it's going to happen in terms of him transforming rather than two distinct separate characters. So I don't know exactly how they're going to go forward. If they're going to keep the corporate character around, since he is essentially now just waiting to transform. He's a volatile thing. But he did pass his job evaluation.
I kind of wanted this segment to end with Seth Rollins being carted away in a straitjacket.
Yeah, Seth Rollins is definitely going crazy. I don't know the exact words, but I think the person who was doing Kane's job evaluation definitely described him perfectly. Like, crazy, paranoid, self-obsessed, egotistical.
Sound familiar? Oh. that sounds a lot like Triple H.
Yep, I can see where you're going with that. They are well and truly trying to draw parallels between Triple H and Seth Rollins. For you know what. Everybody knows what. But yeah, I'm not sure if the Triple H Seth Rollins match, it seems like WrestleMania is the only place where it can happen now. I
don't know. There's still talk about doing Rock versus Triple H at WrestleMania.
Can we just keep them out? Like, no. There's always a lot of...
And Seth Rollins is also being considered to face the Beast.
Please no.
Personally, if the only match I'm really interested with for Brock Lesnar is Reigns 2.
Yep. Reigns 2 with Reigns going over.
Nothing on the line other than who's better. That's all I want for that.
I think
if you're not going to do the Shield triple threat for the title, then I want Reigns versus Lesnar, just a mano who's better match.
Yeah.
We didn't get to find that out last year.
I think if we get that, then that will finally be the payoff in terms of Brock Lesnar beating the streak. We said it should have gone to a younger guy at the time, but if Lesnar keeps riding that like, he's recently brought it back up and he's having his feud with Taker now. If he wraps that all up and he's like, well, I'm still the guy who broke the streak, and then lays claim to being the best wrestler, which essentially he could at this point, then you got Reigns come in, Reigns beat him clean, and then Reigns gets that, I beat the guy who beat the streak, essentially. And if they're building Lesnar up, the only guy I think who's beat him in how long, like 4 years at this point, is Taker, I think. I don't know my stats. But Lesnar is essentially mowing through everybody, so to have him lose to Roman Reigns, it would definitely give Roman Reigns that push and the momentum he needs. But talking about Lesnar, well, that segue, we got our current entrance theme. It is Next Big Thing. It's Brock Lesnar's theme. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0, Grady and Josh. So, also on Raw, we got some advancement, I'm going to call it that, of the Divas as a whole feud. Paige is definitely broken away, and now we have NCB. Also, it seems as though Natalya is taking Paige's spot while Paige is going off on her own.
I don't really know. I guess it's just they definitely want to interject Natalya into the Revolution. I'm still not quite sure what they want to do with her. I still think she needs a couple of friends.
It might not be the reason, but if you do inject her, then you do have 10. And 10 is a nice round number.
Especially for a certain event next month.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, but how would you break them up?
Yeah, I have no idea how you'd break them up, but, you know, it is 10. I don't know. Maybe they're going to do like a 10-person battle royal or some poop like that. But yes, there also should be a couple of other divas that are there. But they'll just continue rocking it on NXT. I don't know what's going on in terms of that. There was, like, it's not on there anymore, so I think it was just someone fake editing the Wikipedia page, but I believe someone edited the Madison Square Garden show to say that Paige was getting a title match, or was getting a match against Nikki.
I've never heard anything announced.
Yeah. I believe it was just a fan edit. But I'm going to presume heading forward that Nikki is going to have a rematch in terms of Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I figure that's when Nikki will get her shot at her rematch, and she'll lose, and then we'll move on from that. And we'll end up with Charlotte versus Paige.
Do we ever really move on, though? I have no idea in terms of that. It definitely seems as though Paige has overheated. Paige is going to be the next one to challenge Charlotte, but you've also got, what is it, like 7 now with Natalya, 8 other divas who are either going to have a storyline or some claim that they're going to do it. Otherwise, they are just going to be...
Tag Team Championships. Cough.
You keep coughing. You will not ever get what you want. But yeah, they need something. Otherwise, what Paige is saying, where she's saying, like, Becky is barely being showcased, that's semi-true. And more true than that is Team Bad just not being showcased for a very long time now.
No, I wonder if it has something to do with the issues Tamina's having with her father at the moment.
You'd think if that was true, though, they'd just replace Tamina. I know she's like...
And they maybe Sasha off for her Iron Woman match.
True. Because that is going to be fairly momentous. I guess they want to try and keep her at least as a semi NXT talent at the moment. Just while she beats... just while Bayley beats her in the Iron Woman match. And then she can move on and fully promote up to the main roster. That does make sense. It might just be a culmination of a couple of things, but it does seem weird that you brought 3 teams in to the Revolution and now you're only showcasing 2. But yes, we should have some sort of focus for the non-title match Divas. Whether it is Divas tag team titles or whether it is just another feud underlying. I wouldn't be too mad if at Hell in a Cell we got our Nikki Charlotte match and we also got an under match. So it was like, I don't know, Becky with Natalya in her corner taking on Paige. Just something that reminds you that
Natalya versus Paige.
There we go. There's some tension down there. There's still a feud and still a storyline going that's not just the title picture. Otherwise, people are only going to focus on the title picture, and then you can only feature 2 divas, essentially. Because when you put in a triple threat might be okay, but when you start doing the fatal 4-ways or the championship scrambles for the titles, it starts blurring in terms of focus. And I don't think you can truly, or at least now, especially with the divas, you can't truly showcase 4 divas in a fatal 4-way match. Especially given the limited time that they will most likely be given on a pay-per-view. But the likelihood that any of that happens is very low, because I am very cynical. But yes, if you don't know and you do not watch NXT, I suggest when this is like a week and 3 days, that would be a Wednesday. We're not talking about it next week, we'll talk about it the week after, so a couple of weeks from now, the NXT shows TakeOver, I'm forgetting the name, I'm blanking, Respect. And the main event will be a 30-woman Iron Man match between Bayley and Sasha Banks. And Josh is
going to be a 30-minute.
Oh, what did I just say? Okay, my head feels a little better now. I just bashed it. That desk is metal, not wood, for anybody who ever comes into the studio. Don't underestimate hitting your head on it. But yeah, that match should be very entertaining and a must-see. As well as the rest of the card, of course, but I think everybody knows that going into that is the big one, I guess, and also the Dusty Tag Team final. I don't think I can keep going, my head hurts. It's been great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling R Radio. I'll see you next week, unless I hit my head too hard.